The pressure to perform never lets up, and leadership today feels like a constant test. 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced down barbarian invasions and a devastating plague, yet he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He was describing an unshakable inner citadel, a core of calm that no external chaos could breach. This is not a historical curiosity. It is the hidden blueprint for mental fortitude, a systematic approach used by timeless leaders to thrive in chaos. By the end of this, you will possess a complete framework for building that same unbreachable core within yourself. We will uncover how a simple division between what you can and cannot control can dissolve anxiety, and why ancient thinkers believed that your character is the only true measure of success. How do you currently define your own inner strength? Every timeless leader possesses a fortress within. This is the Stoic inner citadel, a core of self built not from stone but from unwavering reason and judgment. It is not a place to hide from the world or to suppress your feelings. Instead, it is a protected space within your own mind where your true character resides, a place external events cannot enter without your permission. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes like a citadel, for a person can find no more peaceful refuge than their own inner principles. Your character, your integrity, and your ability to choose your response are your only true possessions, the things no outside force can ever take from you. Think of a modern CEO navigating a severe public relations crisis. While the media storm rages and stock prices fluctuate, they do not react with panic or public outrage. Instead, they retreat to their inner citadel. They assess the situation calmly against their core principles of transparency and responsibility, and they choose a measured, rational response. Their composure is not a lack of feeling, but the result of a disciplined mind returning to its strongest foundation. What single aspect of your own character serves as your most reliable wall? Is it your honesty, your perseverance, or perhaps your sense of justice? Identify that one trait, for it is the first stone in building your own unbreachable core. What if your first reaction to a problem was not your final answer? There is a powerful space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond, a moment of pure potential where your character is truly forged. This is the art of cognitive detachment, the second principle of the timeless leader's blueprint. It is not about becoming cold or unfeeling, but about creating a sliver of distance between yourself and your initial, raw impressions. In that pause, reason has room to intervene, allowing you to see the event for what it is, not for what your fears or desires might paint it to be. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it perfectly when he said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views which they take of them." A sudden market crash is just a market crash, a collection of numbers falling. The panic, the dread, the sense of impending doom, those are the judgments we layer on top of the event, and those are what truly disturb our peace. Cognitive detachment is the practice of stripping away those layers to see the bare facts. Consider Abraham Lincoln during the most divisive period in American history. He was known for writing what he called hot letters, furious, emotionally charged responses to generals or politicians who had angered him, but he never sent them. He would write the letter to vent his initial impression, his raw judgment, and then he would set it aside. After the emotional heat had cooled, he would assess the situation with clarity and decide on a measured, strategic course of action. He mastered the pause between the insult and his official response, and in doing so, he preserved alliances and guided a nation. Can you recall a recent moment, perhaps a difficult email or a tense conversation, where your first impulse was to fire back? What would have happened if you had given yourself just 30 minutes, or even a single night, to let the initial wave of emotion pass? That space is not indecision. It is the very ground upon which wise decisions are built. The first rule in the blueprint is knowing where to focus your energy. This is the dichotomy of control, the foundational filter that separates what you command from what you do not. Your own judgments, your values, your desires and aversions, and the actions you choose to take, these are your domain. Everything else, from the weather and the economy to the opinions and actions of other people, lies outside of it. Mental fortitude is not built by trying to command the storm, but by learning to steady your own ship. The Stoic teacher Epictetus began his entire manual for life with this very idea, writing, "Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Outside our power are our body, our property, our reputation, our office, and, in a word, whatever is not of our own doing." The timeless leader understands that pouring energy into what is outside their control is the fastest route to exhaustion and anxiety. Instead, they channel all their effort into the inner realm, the only place where their effort truly makes a difference. Imagine a project leader whose major product launch is days away. They cannot control whether a competitor launches a surprise product, or if a key journalist writes a negative review, or how the stock market will react. These are external events. What they can control is the thoroughness of their team's preparation, the clarity of their communication, and their own commitment to adapting to whatever news arrives. By focusing exclusively on their team's readiness, they act with power and purpose, regardless of the unpredictable outcomes. Their equanimity comes from this precise focus. Take a moment and list 3 things that are currently causing you worry. Now place each one into its proper category. Is it within your control, or is it outside of it? This simple act of categorization is not just an exercise. It is the practice of redirecting your finite energy from fruitless worry toward purposeful action, building resilience with every conscious choice. What if every setback was secretly a gift? This is the radical heart of the 4th principle, Amor Fati, which simply means a love of one's fate. It is the ultimate expression of resilience, moving far beyond mere acceptance into a space of active embrace. Where others see roadblocks, the timeless leader sees raw material. They understand that the obstacle itself can become the path forward, transforming adversity into the very fuel for their growth. Resentment over what has happened is a drain on your energy, a poison to your judgment. Amor Fati is the antidote, freeing you to channel all your focus into proactive problem solving. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius captured this spirit perfectly when he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." See the events of your life not as random misfortunes, but as logs being thrown onto your own inner fire. Your task is to burn so brightly that you transform them into light and warmth. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. When his massive laboratory complex, containing years of priceless research and prototypes, burned to the ground in a devastating fire, he did not succumb to despair. He reportedly told his son, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." Within weeks, he was rebuilding, using the clean slate to design a more efficient and modern facility. He loved the fate that presented him with ashes because he saw the opportunity hidden within the catastrophe. He did not just accept the fire, he embraced the renewal it forced upon him. Look at one current challenge in your own life. a situation you might be resisting or resenting. What if you chose to see it not as a barrier, but as a necessary, even crucial, step in your development? How would your approach to solving it change if you believed it was secretly designed for your benefit? This shift in perspective does not change the event, but it transforms you, the one who must walk through it. Let's take a step back, a very big step. Picture yourself rising above your city, then your country, until the entire earth is a pale blue dot suspended in an unimaginable void. From this vantage point, your daily struggles, your urgent meetings, and your personal rivalries appear for what they are, infinitesimally small against the canvas of eternity. This is the Stoic view from above, a mental exercise designed to vaporize the ego and put every worry into its proper, humble place. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this perspective in his private writings, reminding himself, "You can discard most of the junk that clutters your mind and clear out space by asking yourself, will this matter in a year or in 5 years? The things that concern you are mostly figments of your imagination, a tiny ripple in the infinite river of time." When you adopt this cosmic lens, the need to be right in an argument or the fear of a single failed project loses its grip on you. Imagine a leader walking into a high-stakes negotiation that could make or break their company's year. The tension in the room is palpable. Instead of being consumed by the pressure, they take a mental breath and zoom out. They consider that in 100 years, everyone in this room and the company itself will be gone, returned to the same dust as ancient emperors. This is not a morbid thought. It is a liberating one. It drains the situation of its false urgency, allowing them to negotiate with calm clarity, not desperate fear. Their focus shifts from winning at all costs to acting with integrity and reason, because in the grand scheme, that is the only thing that holds any lasting weight. So bring to mind the single biggest concern occupying your thoughts right now. Now project your mind forward 10 years into the future and look back at this present moment. From that future vantage point, how much does this current worry truly matter? Does it even register on the scale of your entire life's journey? This perspective does not make your efforts meaningless. It makes them purposeful, freeing you from the tyranny of the trivial so you can devote your energy to what is genuinely significant. True mental strength is not about ignoring danger, but staring it directly in the face. This is the sixth principle, Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. It is a deliberate and systematic practice of mentally rehearsing potential setbacks, losses, and failures. Do not mistake this for pessimism or anxious worrying. The goal is not to dwell on the negative, but to disarm it. By visualizing challenges in advance, you drain them of their emotional shock and develop both practical contingency plans and a profound emotional immunity. The Stoic philosopher Seneca regularly practiced this, writing that we should anticipate poverty, sickness, and even death. He argued that the person who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. You are not trying to predict the future, you are inoculating your mind against the fear of it. Imagine a chief executive officer on the eve of a major product launch. Instead of just hoping for success, they dedicate time to a mental fire drill. They vividly picture the launch failing. They imagine the negative headlines, the disappointed investors, the critical feedback from users. Then, and this is the crucial part, they visualize their own calm and reasoned response. They see themselves gathering their team, analyzing what went wrong, and methodically beginning the work of a pivot or a revision. By walking through this worst-case scenario in their mind, they strip the potential event of its terror. The fear of the unknown is replaced by a prepared, almost familiar sequence of actions. This mental rehearsal transforms anxiety into readiness. Now, turn to a specific fear in your own life. perhaps a difficult conversation you need to have or a professional risk you are considering. Close your eyes for a moment and mentally walk through what you are most afraid might happen. Do not run from the details. See the situation unfold in your mind. Then focus not on the event itself, but on your response. How would your best self, your most rational and principled self, handle that outcome? This is not an invitation for disaster. It is the construction of an inner anchor, ensuring that no matter how rough the seas become, you will not be swept away. For timeless leaders, success was never measured by wealth or power, but by character. This brings us to the seventh and perhaps most transformative principle, the idea that virtue is the sole good. In the Stoic worldview, your moral excellence, your inner character, is the only thing of true and lasting value. Everything else, your possessions, your reputation, even your health, are classified as indifference. This does not mean they are unimportant, but that their value is entirely conditional. They are preferred or dispreferred, but they can never be good or evil in themselves. Only your virtue, your wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline can be genuinely good, because only these things are entirely within your power to cultivate and keep. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it in the starkest terms, stating, "What is good? Knowledge of what is in our power and what is not, what is evil." The lack of that knowledge, he is telling us that the only real failure is a failure of character, and the only true success is living with integrity. This philosophy creates an unshakable inner compass. When you define your worth by your character rather than your circumstances, the whims of fortune, whether they bring windfalls or disasters, cannot break you. You become resilient because your core identity is no longer tied to things that can be taken away. Consider a political leader faced with a choice between a popular but ethically questionable policy and a just but unpopular one. The expedient path promises a boost in polls and temporary public approval, an external reward. The virtuous path, upholding justice, may bring criticism and short-term pain. A leader grounded in this principle chooses justice because securing long-term respect for their integrity is a truer, more lasting victory than any fleeting poll number. Their legacy is built not on what they gained, but on who they were when tested. Think back on a significant decision you made recently, perhaps a business choice or a personal commitment. What was the primary force guiding your hand? Was it the lure of an external reward, a promotion, or social validation? Or was it an internal virtue, a deep-seated sense of what was right, fair, or courageous? The answer reveals where you have placed your compass and whether your sense of self is built on shifting sand or solid ground. Your mind has a gate. Who is guarding it? This is the eighth principle, the discipline of assent, and it is the vigilant practice of being the gatekeeper of your own thoughts. Before any impression, any initial judgment or raw feeling is allowed to enter the sanctum of your mind and become a full-fledged belief, you have the power to question it. This is your first and most crucial line of defense against the tides of anxiety and anger, because it stops faulty perceptions before they can ever take root and distort your reality. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered clear instructions for this very practice, advising that we should not be carried away by the vividness of an impression, but say to it, "Wait for me a little. Let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me test you." That pause, that moment of testing, is the essence of the discipline of assent. You are not your first thought. You are the judge who decides whether that thought deserves your belief. Consider a leader opening an email that contains harsh, critical feedback on a project they have poured their heart into. The initial impression is a raw sting of insult, a flash of defensive anger, a thought screaming, "This is unfair," and they have completely missed the point. Without a gatekeeper, that impression rushes in, solidifies into a belief, and dictates a reaction, perhaps a sharp, regrettable reply. But a leader practicing the discipline of assent stops the thought at the gate. They examine it. They ask, is this feedback entirely untrue? Is there a single valid point hidden within the harsh delivery? By withholding immediate assent from the initial judgment of unfairness, they create space to extract useful data from the criticism while discarding the emotional venom. Their eventual response becomes constructive rather than defensive, all because they guarded the gate. Now, bring to your own mind one common automatic negative thought you experience. It might be a recurring belief like, I am not qualified for this, or this person is intentionally trying to undermine me. For a moment, hold that thought at the gate and question it. What is the actual evidence for this belief? Is it an unchangeable fact, or is it merely one possible interpretation of events? Testing your impressions in this way is not self-doubt. It is the ultimate act of self-command, ensuring that only reasoned judgments shape your inner world and guide your actions. All your plans have an expiration date. This is a gift. The ninth principle, Memento Mori, is the remembrance of death, and it is perhaps the most misunderstood tool in the entire blueprint. This is not a dark obsession with the end, but a profound technique to electrify the present moment. By holding the certainty of your own death in mind, you are handed the ultimate filter for your life. It instantly vaporizes the trivial, silences the noise of other people's expectations, and forces a stark clarity onto your priorities. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. He was not being morbid. He was installing a mental compass that always pointed toward meaningful action. This awareness is the great clarifier, cutting through the procrastination and petty concerns that so often consume our days. Think of the incredible output of a figure like Leonardo da Vinci. He was a painter, inventor, scientist, and architect driven by an insatiable curiosity. While not a Stoic in the traditional sense, he lived with a powerful sense of time's fleeting nature, often writing notes about the hours slipping away. His awareness of mortality was the engine for his relentless creation, pushing him to capture, design, and understand as much as he could with the time he had. He understood that the masterpiece is not the finished painting, but the act of painting itself while you still have the chance. Now, bring this principle down to the level of your own life. If you knew with certainty that you had 1 year left to live, what would you stop doing immediately? Would you still attend that meeting that serves no purpose? Would you continue that draining friendship built on gossip? Would you remain in the job that slowly extinguishes your spirit? The answers that spring to mind are not a to-do list for a hypothetical final year. They are an urgent memo from your deepest self about what you should stop tolerating right now. Memento Mori does not ask you to live in fear of the end. It demands that you begin living, truly living, with the time you have already been given. There is a secret to stress-free action that every timeless leader masters. It is the art of giving absolutely everything you have to a goal while simultaneously holding the final outcome with an open hand. This is the 10th principle, the Stoic reserve clause, a practice of detached engagement. You pour your entire being into the process, yet you make a quiet peace with the fact that the result is not yours to command. The ancient Stoics captured this with a simple but profound formula: I will do this, fate permitting. It is a declaration of intense effort coupled with a humble acknowledgement of the vast web of circumstances beyond your control. Seneca wrote extensively about this idea, urging us to undertake all our projects with a reservation, a mental understanding that something may intervene to prevent our intended outcome. This is not a lack of ambition. It is the highest form of wisdom, allowing you to act with passion but without the desperate attachment that turns potential failure into personal devastation. Picture an elite athlete on the eve of the championship game. They have trained for thousands of hours, studied their opponents, and visualized every play. They are prepared to leave every ounce of their energy on the field. Yet, in their quiet moments, they have also made peace with the reality that a referee's call, a sudden injury, or simply an opponent's extraordinary performance could change the outcome. They do not dwell on these possibilities with fear, but with acceptance. This reserve clause allows them to play with fierce freedom, unburdened by the choking weight of expectation. Their focus remains on their execution, their effort, their role, which are the only things they truly own. Now, bring this to a goal you are currently chasing. You are putting in the work, but are you also carrying the heavy anxiety of a specific result? What if you silently added the clause, fate permitting, to your intention? How would that change the quality of your effort? Would you feel a sense of liberation, allowing you to focus on the excellence of your actions rather than the uncertainty of the reward? This is how you build a legacy of graceful power, striving with all your heart yet remaining unbroken by the turns of fortune. The lone leader is a myth. We are all branches of the same tree. This is the 11th principle, Sympatheia, the profound Stoic understanding that the universe is a single, living, interconnected whole, and that our own well-being is inextricably linked to the common good. This worldview shatters the illusion of separation, replacing it with a deep sense of shared destiny that naturally fosters empathy, dissolves petty conflicts, and anchors your actions in a purpose far larger than your own ambitions. Marcus Aurelius framed this beautifully in his private meditations, writing, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." He saw humanity as a single body, where each of us is a limb tasked with cooperating for the health of the whole. When one part suffers, the entire organism is weakened. When you act with this awareness, your leadership transforms from a quest for personal glory into a service to the entire system you are a part of. Consider a corporate executive navigating a difficult merger. Instead of imposing their own company's culture and viewing the other team as a conquered enemy, they operate from this principle of interconnectedness. They recognize that the true success of the new entity depends on the willing cooperation and shared purpose of every single employee from both sides. They invest time in building bridges, listening to concerns, and creating a new, unified identity. Their goal is not to win, but to weave a stronger, more resilient whole, understanding that their own success is now dependent on the success of everyone involved. Your own sphere of influence is your branch on this vast tree. This week, what is one tangible action you could take to better serve your team, your family, or your local community? It does not need to be a grand gesture. It could be mentoring a junior colleague, actively seeking a dissenting opinion in a meeting, or simply listening with your full attention. Each act of connection strengthens the entire network, and in doing so, strengthens you. What if you lost everything you take for granted today? This is not a threat, but a tool. The 12th and final principle in the Timeless Leader's Blueprint is the practice of negative visualization, a deliberate and temporary exercise where you imagine the absence of the people, possessions, and positions you hold dear. Its purpose is not to cultivate fear, but to forge a profound and active gratitude, transforming your relationship with the good things in your life from one of passive expectation to one of vibrant appreciation. The Stoic philosopher Seneca captured the spirit of this practice perfectly in his writings, advising us to remember that the things and people we love are only on loan to us from fortune. He wrote that we should love all our dear ones, but always with the thought that we have no promise that we may keep them forever. This is not pessimism. It is the ultimate realism, an acknowledgement of life's inherent uncertainty that, paradoxically, makes our present experience infinitely richer. By mentally rehearsing loss, you immunize yourself against the shock of potential future hardship, and more importantly, you learn to see the world with fresh eyes every single day. Try this simple exercise right now. Choose one foundational comfort in your life, perhaps the security of your job or the presence of a key relationship. Now close your eyes for just 10 seconds and vividly imagine it is gone. The routine is shattered, the income has vanished, the familiar voice is silent. Feel the initial pang of that absence, then open your eyes and return to the present reality where that comfort still exists. Notice the immediate shift, the wave of relief and genuine thankfulness that washes over you for something you may not have truly seen in months. The object itself has not changed, but your perception of its value has been permanently heightened. This is the power of negative visualization. It is a reset button for your gratitude. Now take this final moment of our journey together and turn it inward. Identify 3 simple things in your life you normally take for granted. It could be the warmth of your home, the reliable function of your body, or the simple freedom to spend an hour as you choose. Do not just list them, pause for a breath with each one and allow yourself to feel a genuine, quiet appreciation for its presence in your life right now. In that feeling, you are not just building resilience, you are discovering the hidden wealth you already possess. For the Stoic sage, doing the right thing is as natural as breathing. There is no internal war, no exhausting debate between desire and duty, because their will has become perfectly aligned with their rational nature. This is the 13th principle, the path of least resistance to virtue. It is the final stage of mental fortitude, where your highest principles are so deeply ingrained, they become your automatic, effortless response to the world. You have moved from practicing courage to simply being courageous, from reminding yourself to be just to acting justly without a second thought. The struggle evaporates not because the challenges are gone, but because your character has been sculpted to meet them without hesitation. The Stoic teacher Epictetus pointed to the source of our difficulty when he taught that to be hindered or disturbed is due not to external things, but to our own judgments and our own failure to live in accordance with our nature. The friction we feel, the internal resistance, is a sign that we are acting against our own reasoned understanding of what is good. Imagine a leader who has spent years cultivating integrity. When a lucrative but ethically ambiguous opportunity arises, they do not wrestle with temptation. Their mind, trained to recognize that true value lies only in virtuous action, immediately dismisses it. The decision is made before it even feels like a decision. Their daily routine is built on this foundation. They wake early not through force of will, but because their body and mind crave the clarity of the morning. They give honest feedback to their team not as a difficult duty, but as a natural expression of their commitment to collective growth. Their composure in a crisis is not a performance, but the default setting of a mind that has dissolved the habit of panic. This effortless virtue is the destination of the entire blueprint. Your inner citadel is not just a fortress to retreat to, it is the very architecture of your mind, the landscape through which your thoughts and actions now flow without obstruction. Think of one small, virtuous action you perform inconsistently. It could be a moment of patience when you feel rushed, or a gesture of appreciation for a colleague's effort. This month, make that single action your practice. Commit to performing it daily until it requires no conscious decision, until it becomes as natural as your next breath. What begins as a small stone of habit can, over time, reshape the entire riverbed of your character. Someone insults you, your first thought is probably wrong. It is a flash of heat, a surge of defensive anger that insists you have been diminished. But this immediate reaction is a trap, a faulty perception that the timeless leader learns to disarm. This is the 14th principle, judgment suspension in the face of provocation. The insult itself is just a collection of sounds or marks on a screen. It carries no power to actually harm your character or your inner peace. The only thing that can disturb you is your own judgment, your own agreement that the insult has meaning and that you should be offended. By withholding your assent from that initial, raw impression, you reclaim a profound emotional stability. Marcus Aurelius offered a simple but devastatingly effective strategy for this very situation, writing that the best revenge is to not be like the person who wronged you. When you react with anger to an insult, you become a mirror of the provocation, allowing another person's lack of character to dictate your own. But when you refuse to grant the insult power over your inner state, you demonstrate a strength they cannot touch. Consider a political leader on a public debate stage. An opponent launches a deeply personal attack, questioning their intelligence or their family background. The audience holds its breath, anticipating a fiery counterattack. Instead, the leader pauses, lets the words hang in the air, and then responds with calm, factual reasoning that addresses the policy issue at hand. They do not acknowledge the insult because to do so would be to validate it. Their composure is not weakness but a display of superior inner control. They win not by defeating their opponent in a war of words, but by refusing to fight on that battlefield at all. Now bring this back to your own life. Recall the last time a comment, perhaps from a colleague or even a stranger, made you feel insulted. That feeling was real, but it was built entirely on your judgment that their words mattered. What if you reframed that moment? What if you saw the insult not as an attack on your worth, but as a reflection of the other person's internal state, their frustration or their own insecurity? Your inner worth is a fortress that no external opinion can breach. By suspending your judgment, you choose to remain safely within its walls, undisturbed and entirely in command of yourself. Elite athletes train their bodies hard. Elite minds require the same deliberate conditioning. This is the 15th principle, the practice of voluntary hardship, a way to forge resilience by willingly stepping into discomfort before life forces you to. It is not about seeking pain for its own sake, but about building a callus of the spirit, inoculating yourself against the fear of future loss or difficulty. By periodically choosing a smaller hardship, you prove to yourself that you can endure far more than you think, and you learn to find deep sufficiency in less. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was a powerful advocate for this, arguing that practicing poverty is just as important as practicing prosperity. He taught that we should periodically test ourselves by sleeping on a hard bed, wearing plain clothing, and eating simple food, not because these things are good in themselves, but because they make us fearless in the face of circumstance. When you know you can thrive with very little, the potential loss of your comforts loses its power to terrify you. Consider a modern tech executive whose life is defined by luxury and convenience. To stay grounded and mentally tough, they might choose to take only cold showers for a month or commit to a weekly 24-hour fast. These are not acts of self-punishment. They are drills. Each cold shower is a small victory over the desire for comfort, a reminder that their well-being is not dependent on external conditions. When a real crisis hits their company, they face it with the same composed determination they built one chilly morning at a time. Their resilience is not theoretical, it is earned in these daily, voluntary battles. So, what one small comfort can you voluntarily set aside for just a single day? It might be that second cup of coffee, the constant scroll through social media, or the warmth of your heated car seats. Choose one and for 24 hours practice doing without it. Pay close attention not to the feeling of lack, but to the discovery of your own capacity to adapt and persevere. This small act is a direct deposit into your account of fortitude, building a balance you can draw upon when life inevitably makes a much larger withdrawal. Who do you look to when your own judgment falters? Every timeless leader, no matter how strong, has leaned on the wisdom of those who walked the path before them. This is the 16th principle, the role of role models, and it provides a crucial external compass for your internal journey. The Stoics did not believe in solitary struggle. They actively chose figures, real or idealized, to serve as living standards of virtue, asking themselves in moments of uncertainty, what would Socrates do here? Or how would Cato handle this? This practice is not about imitation, but about consultation. It is like having a council of wise advisors living in your mind, ready to provide a benchmark for your own choices when your emotions threaten to cloud your vision. Seneca wrote extensively about this in his letters, advising his friend Lucilius to choose a model to guide your life, someone whose authority and influence can steady your wavering judgment. He suggested we have a fixed standard by which to measure our own character, not to copy another person's life in detail, but to have a pattern by which we can correct our own flaws. This turns abstract philosophy into a practical, daily dialogue. Consider a young leader tasked with their first major ethical dilemma at work. The easy path is financially rewarding but compromises their team's trust. In that moment of tension, they do not just rely on their own fluctuating feelings. They pause and bring to mind a historical leader they deeply admire, perhaps someone like Abraham Lincoln, known for his profound integrity. They ask themselves, what would Lincoln choose? The answer that arises is not a specific business strategy, but a clear direction toward the action that preserves long-term respect and justice. This simple mental exercise provides the clarity needed to transcend short-term temptation. So, who is that person for you? Identify one individual, real or from history, whose character you genuinely aspire to emulate. It does not have to be a famous philosopher. It could be a grandparent known for their unwavering kindness, a teacher who embodied patience, or a public figure whose courage inspires you. Keep that person's essence close. In your next moment of doubt, invite them into your inner citadel and ask for their counsel. You may be surprised by the strength and clarity their imagined presence provides. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, your power exists only now. This is the 17th principle, the recognition that the present moment is your only true arena for action. Anxiety is a debt you pay on a fortune you may never receive, and regret is a tax on an event you can no longer change. Both are profound distractions, pulling your focus and energy away from the single point in time where you can actually practice virtue, make a decision, or exert any real control. The timeless leader understands that all of their power is concentrated in the eternal now. Marcus Aurelius framed this with breathtaking clarity in his private writings, advising himself to concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice. He is not talking about frantic busyness, but about a deep, focused engagement with the immediate task, whatever it may be. This is where your character is lived, not in the ghosts of yesterday or the mirages of tomorrow. Imagine a hospital director in the midst of an unfolding emergency. A critical system has failed and patient care is at risk. They are not paralyzed by thoughts of whose fault it was in the past, nor are they consumed by fears of the potential lawsuits or reputational damage that may come in the future. Their entire being is focused on the present moment demands. They are issuing clear, calm instructions to their staff, assessing real-time data, and making decisive calls with the information available right now. Their effectiveness springs from this total immersion in the present, the only place where the crisis can actually be managed. Your own life, with its goals and challenges, operates on the same principle. That ambitious 5-year plan is built not in some distant future, but through the small, consistent actions you take today. So, take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. Write down one single, concrete action you can complete before the sun sets today that will move you meaningfully toward one important goal. It does not need to be monumental. It could be sending that difficult email, making that one phone call, or spending 30 minutes in focused study. Do not just think about it, write it down, and then, in this present moment, decide that you will do it. This is how you stop planning a life and start living one. A victory and a loss are simply different kinds of data for the Stoic leader. This 18th principle, equanimity in success and failure, asks you to maintain the same steady inner state regardless of the external outcome. Your inner citadel should be as undisturbed by a roaring triumph as it is by a stinging defeat, because both are ultimately classified as indifference. What truly matters, the only genuine good, is the character you demonstrated in the process. Did you act with courage, justice, and wisdom? Did you remain true to your principles? The final result, whether it is a promotion or a bankruptcy, is merely the echo of your actions in a world you do not fully control. Seneca wrote powerfully on this very point, advising that we should enjoy present pleasures in such a way as not to damage future ones, and meet present hardships in such a way as not to be broken by them. He is describing a single, unshakable posture toward life, a mindset that receives fortune's gifts without arrogance and withstands its blows without crumbling. Imagine a seasoned entrepreneur. One week, their company lands a monumental contract, a validation of years of hard work. The team is celebrating, and the industry is praising their innovation. The leader acknowledges the win, thanks the team, and then quietly returns to their desk, their inner calm unbroken. The following month, a sudden market crash wipes out half their valuation. The team is panicked, and doubts are swirling. The leader gathers everyone, their composure identical to the week of the win. They analyze the new data with the same clear-eyed reason, focusing not on the catastrophe but on the virtuous response it demands. The win did not make them a better person, and the loss cannot make them a worse one. Their identity is anchored in something far deeper than quarterly results. Now bring this principle into your own life. Reflect on one recent success and one recent failure, big or small. When you received that piece of good news, did your inner state soar with a temporary high? When you faced that setback, did it plunge you into a corresponding low? The space between those two emotional poles is the territory of true equanimity. Your challenge is not to feel nothing, but to ensure that your core sense of self remains steady, anchored not to the fleeting verdict of the world, but to the permanent quality of your own character. Who gets to decide if you are a good person? The answer you give to this question defines your entire psychological landscape. For the timeless leader, the only valid judge sits within. This is the 19th principle, the internal locus of evaluation. A disciplined commitment to measuring your worth against your own internal standards of virtue, not the fickle applause or hisses of the outside world. Mental fortitude is forged in this crucible of self-assessment, making you the final arbiter of your character, and, in doing so, rendering you immune to the emotional whiplash of external validation or condemnation. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered the ultimate liberation on this point, teaching that you are not responsible for what other people think about you, but you are responsible for being a good person. He draws a bright, unbreakable line between your actions, which you control, and the reactions of others, which you do not. When you outsource your self-worth to the opinions of others, you hand them the keys to your inner peace. But when you become your own most trusted evaluator, you reclaim an unshakable sovereignty. Consider the story of the post-impressionist painter Vincent van Gogh. During his lifetime, his work was met with widespread criticism and indifference. He sold only a handful of paintings. The external evaluation of his art was overwhelmingly negative. Yet he continued to paint with a revolutionary vision, driven by an internal compulsion to express his unique perception of the world. His sense of purpose and artistic integrity came from within. He was not a success in the eyes of his contemporaries, but he remained faithful to his own internal standard of what his art should be. His legacy, built entirely on that internal conviction, now inspires millions. His story is a powerful testament to the fact that external failure, when judged by the world, is meaningless next to the internal success of holding true to your own purpose. Now take a moment for a quiet, honest reflection. Get out a pen and a piece of paper or open a new note on your device. Write down your own personal definition of success. But here is the crucial rule: it cannot mention any external object, title, or number. It cannot be about your salary, your job title, your possessions, or your social media following. It must be defined solely by character. What virtues would you embody in a typical day? What would it look like to act with courage, justice, and wisdom in your specific circumstances? This written definition is not a wish. It is your new internal compass, the one you will consult from this day forward to decide if you are indeed a good person. Anger is a brief madness that solves nothing. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic, dedicated an entire work to dissecting this dangerous passion, concluding it is a temporary insanity that serves no rational purpose. It erupts from a single source, a judgment you have made, a belief that you have been wronged in some intolerable way. The Stoics argued that this judgment is almost always flawed. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and your mind instantly declares, "This person has disrespected me." Your project is criticized, and the internal verdict screams, "They are trying to undermine my competence." The anger you feel is not caused by the other driver or the critic. It is caused by your own agreement with that initial, hot-headed judgment. You choose to assent to the idea that you have been victimized, and in that choice, the flame of anger is lit. But you have another choice. You can catch that judgment at the gate of your mind and question it before it sets your inner world on fire. A timeless leader understands that the raw energy of anger is not to be suppressed but redirected. The intense focus and drive that anger produces can be harnessed and transformed into calm, determined, and immensely effective action. Consider a manager who has just discovered a critical error made by a trusted team member, an error that will delay an important launch. The first impression is a surge of frustration and blame. An undisciplined mind would act on this impulse, perhaps summoning the employee for a public reprimand. But this leader practices the Stoic pause. They step away for 5 minutes. In that space, they deconstruct the anger. What is the judgment? It is, "This person was careless and has ruined our timeline." They then test this judgment. Is it entirely true? Was it malice or a simple human error under pressure? What is the actual, present moment problem that needs solving? The delay, the energy that was initially fueling the desire to blame, is now redirected into solving that problem. The leader returns not with accusation, but with a calm directive. They gather the team, acknowledge the setback without assigning villainy, and channel the collective focus into developing a recovery plan. The anger has been transfused into purpose. Think back to a recent flash of anger you felt. Look past the heat and identify the specific judgment that triggered it. What was the story you told yourself in that instant? Was that story completely, objectively true? By isolating that faulty judgment, you disarm the anger at its source, freeing all that potent energy to be used not for destruction, but for building a solution. Aim for perfection, not to achieve it, but to guide your direction. This is the 21st principle, the contemplation of the ideal sage, a mental exercise where you envision a being of flawless wisdom and virtue. You are not meant to become this perfect sage, for the Stoics believed that was a rare achievement. Instead, this ideal figure acts as your North Star, a constant reference point that helps you correct your course when you drift. By holding this standard in your mind, you are always calibrating your actions and judgments toward a greater excellence, measuring the gap between your current self and your highest potential. The Stoics called the person on this journey a proficiens, a progressor, someone always in motion toward the ideal. Your value lies not in reaching the destination, but in the unwavering quality of the effort you make with each step you take. Consider a leader who sees themselves as a philosopher king. Each evening, they review their day not against their own past performance, but against the hypothetical actions of a perfect ruler. They ask, would the ideal leader have spoken with such irritation in that meeting? Would they have postponed that difficult decision out of discomfort? This is not an exercise in self-criticism, but in lucid self-assessment. It provides a clear, objective standard that is free from the excuses and justifications our own minds so easily create. The gap between their action and the ideal action becomes the specific focus for their growth tomorrow. Now, bring this principle into your own life. Think of one challenging situation you are currently navigating, a persistent problem at work or a personal conflict. Now, close your eyes and vividly imagine your ideal self, the most wise, courageous, and compassionate version of you. How would that person approach this very situation? What would their first action be? The answer that emerges is not a condemnation of your current efforts, but a precise map for your very next move. Your willpower is a finite resource. Spend it wisely. This is the 22nd principle, the economy of desire and aversion, a strategic practice of conserving your most precious mental energy by carefully curating what you want and what you avoid. Most people exhaust themselves by chasing external prizes like fame, wealth, and constant approval, while simultaneously fleeing from minor discomforts like criticism, awkward conversations, or temporary setbacks. This is a life lived on a frantic treadmill, burning fuel but going nowhere. The Stoic leader steps off this treadmill. They understand that true power lies not in acquiring more, but in wanting less, specifically by aligning all desire and aversion with the only thing that truly matters, their own virtuous character. The Stoic teacher Epictetus gave us the master key to this entire system when he taught that happiness and freedom begin with this one understanding, that some things are up to us and some are not. He directly linked our peace of mind to this economy, stating that the essence of philosophy is to align your will with nature, meaning you should only desire what you can actually control and only avoid what is truly vicious. Your desire, therefore, should be fixed on acting with courage and justice, while your only aversion should be to acting with cowardice or deceit. Everything else is merely background noise. Consider a leader like Mahatma Gandhi. His entire life was a masterclass in this economy. He desired only one thing, the virtuous goal of Indian independence through non-violent means. He averted only one thing, compromising his core principles of truth and non-violence. He famously lived a life of radical simplicity, wearing minimal clothing and owning almost nothing. He was not averse to comfort because he hated material things, but because he recognized them as distractions that drained energy from his singular, monumental mission. By refusing to desire luxury or public acclaim, he freed up an immense reservoir of mental and spiritual focus, which he then directed entirely toward his goal. His power came from this profound conservation of intent. Now turn this lens on your own life. What is one desire you are currently carrying that you can consciously choose to release? It might be the desire for a particular job title, for a certain number of social media likes, or for everyone in a meeting to agree with you. Acknowledge that desire and then, in this moment, make the strategic decision to let it go. Feel the mental space that opens up, the quiet relief as that energy is returned to you, ready to be invested in something you can actually control, your next right action. The most important meeting you have all day is with yourself at night. This daily debrief is the 23rd principle, the practice of the evening review, a quiet ritual where you audit your own character against the standard of virtue. It is not a time for harsh self-condemnation, but for clear-eyed, honest assessment, a way to close the day with self-awareness and a clear conscience. You are looking for patterns in your behavior, for moments where your principles held firm, and more importantly, for the moments where they wavered. The Stoic philosopher Seneca made this a cornerstone of his own life, writing that he would examine his entire day each night before sleep. He would ask his own soul, what bad habit have you cured today? What fault have you resisted? In what way are you better? This was his method for ensuring that every single day contributed to his growth, turning time itself into an ally for building an unshakable character. The process is simple but profound. Set aside just a few minutes of quiet before you sleep. Ask yourself 3 straightforward questions. First, what did I do well today? Acknowledge the small victories, the moments you acted with patience, courage, or integrity, no matter how insignificant they seemed. Second, where did I fall short of my own standards? Be specific and compassionate. Did you speak out of turn in a meeting? Did you avoid a difficult conversation out of fear? Third, and this is the most crucial step, how will I improve tomorrow? Turn the misstep into a plan. If you were impatient today, your plan for tomorrow might be to take 3 deep breaths before responding to a request. This simple 3-question format transforms abstract philosophy into a daily practice of incremental refinement. Your character is not built in grand, sweeping declarations, but in these quiet, consistent reviews of your own actions. Tonight, before you close your eyes, try a 2-minute version of this review. Let your final thoughts of the day be a constructive conversation with your own highest self, laying the foundation for a slightly wiser tomorrow. Chaos is an illusion. There is a rational thread connecting all events, a deep current of order running beneath the surface of what appears to be random chance. This is the 24th principle, seeing the logos in all things, the Stoic conviction that a universal reason permeates and governs the cosmos. To trust in this rational structure is to find a profound anchor for your own life, a sense that you are participating in a meaningful whole rather than being tossed on a sea of arbitrary fortune. This perspective transforms suffering from a pointless affliction into a necessary part of a larger, intelligible pattern, dramatically reducing the anxiety that comes from believing the world is fundamentally random. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this wellspring of meaning, reminding himself to accept whatever happens as happening justly, and to accept that what has come to you was woven for you from the whole. He saw his own origins and the origins of every event he encountered as springing from the same single, divine source. This was not a blind faith, but a rational commitment to the idea of a coherent universe. Consider the polar explorer Ernest Shackleton, whose ship, the Endurance, was trapped and slowly crushed by the Antarctic ice. His entire mission was a catastrophic failure by any external measure. Yet his belief in an underlying order, a logic to survival that could be understood and followed, never wavered. He did not see the ice as a malicious force, but as a set of brutal conditions to be navigated with reason and unwavering discipline. This trust in a discoverable order, in the logos of the polar environment, guided his legendary leadership and ultimate success in bringing every one of his men home alive. The disaster was not meaningless, it was the very crucible that forged his immortal legacy of resilience. Now, bring this principle into your own history. Reflect on one difficult event from your past, a failure or a loss that felt senseless at the time. Can you trace the hidden thread of purpose running through it? Did that closed door force you to develop a strength you did not know you had, or redirect you onto a path you would have otherwise missed? The event itself does not change, but your perception of its place in the grand tapestry of your life transforms it from a wound into a cornerstone. The praise of others is as fickle as the weather. Build your house on rock, for the timeless leader, the applause of the crowd and the glitter of awards hold no power to define their worth. These are what the Stoics called preferred indifference. You may enjoy them if they come, but you must never depend on them for your confidence or your identity. Seeking external validation is like drinking salt water. It only deepens your thirst. True, unshakable confidence is generated from within, by the quiet certainty that you are living in alignment with your own principles, regardless of who is watching or what they are saying. The Roman statesman Cato the Younger was legendary for this very indifference. He would often walk through the Roman Forum wearing nothing but his simple tunic, barefoot, and indifferent to the stares and whispers of the social elite. This was not a calculated act of rebellion, but a genuine demonstration that public opinion held no sway over his self-image. His character was his currency, and it required no external mint to validate it. Consider a modern CEO who is offered a prestigious industry award. Upon learning that the selection process involved compromises she was not comfortable with, or that accepting it would implicitly endorse practices that clashed with her company's core values, she graciously declines. She understands that the hollow brass of a trophy is a poor substitute for the solid gold of a clear conscience. Her power comes from knowing that her integrity is the only honor that truly matters, an award she gives to herself every day through her actions. Think back to a moment in your own life when you craved approval, perhaps from a boss, a parent, or your peers. Recall the anxious energy of that pursuit, the constant looking outward for a sign that you were good enough. Now contrast that with a memory of an action you took purely from a place of inner integrity, something you did simply because it was right, with no audience in mind. Which of those two experiences left you feeling more solid, more truly confident? The space between those two feelings is the territory of your own liberation. Your tongue is a rudder. It can steer you into calm waters or a storm. This is the 26th principle, the mastery of speech and silence, a discipline that turns communication into an instrument of leadership rather than a source of chaos. For the Stoic, every word must pass a simple but ruthless three-part test before it is spoken. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind, or at the very least, beneficial to the common good? Gossip, complaint, empty flattery, and hasty judgments all fail this test. They are the leaks in your ship, draining your authority and muddying your purpose. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a timeless anatomical clue to this practice, reminding us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Listening is not merely waiting for your turn to talk. It is the act of gathering information, understanding context, and showing respect, all of which are essential before your own words can carry any real weight. Imagine a high-stakes diplomatic standoff between two nations, with military forces mobilized and tensions at a breaking point. A seasoned mediator, trained in this principle, enters the room. They do not begin with accusations, threats, or long-winded speeches. They listen intently to the grievances and fears of both sides. When they finally speak, their words are few, precise, and calibrated not to win an argument but to find a shared truth. They might say, "It seems both of your peoples share a deep desire for security and a future for your children. How can we ensure both?" This reframes the conflict, steering the conversation away from the storm of mutual blame and toward the calmer waters of common interest. Their power came not from the volume of their speech, but from its targeted, truthful, and beneficial nature. This discipline is not reserved for global summits. It applies to your next team meeting, your next family dinner, or your next interaction online. For just one day, become a silent auditor of your own speech. Carry a small notebook, physical or digital, and make a brief note every time you catch yourself speaking out of complaint, engaging in gossip, or offering an opinion that was neither true nor necessary. Do not judge yourself harshly, simply observe. The mere act of noticing is the first and most powerful step toward taking command of your rudder and steering your life with greater intention. A tree does not rage against the wind, it bends. This is the quiet wisdom of the 27th principle, the acceptance of nature's limits. Our bodies are not machines built for perpetual peak performance. They are organic, changing, and subject to the same natural laws as every living thing. To fight against this reality, to resent the slow creep of age or the arrival of an illness, is to declare war on the fundamental nature of existence. This war is one you cannot win, and it drains your energy in a futile battle against the inevitable. The timeless leader understands that peace and power are found not in conquering these limits, but in accepting them with grace and then working masterfully within the new boundaries they create. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while his own body was often racked with pain, counseled himself to accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe. He saw his own aging and sickness as part of a larger, natural order. To accept what nature demands is to align your will with the cosmos itself, transforming frustration into a profound sense of belonging. Consider the elite athlete whose body can no longer perform at the level it once did. The undisciplined mind might cling to past glory, pushing through pain and risking permanent injury in a desperate attempt to reclaim what is gone. But the wise athlete, the Stoic athlete, accepts this natural limit with clear eyes. They do not see it as an end, but as a transition. They channel their deep knowledge and passion into coaching, mentoring the next generation. Their contribution evolves, becoming perhaps even more impactful than their individual performance ever was, because it multiplies through others. Their power shifts from physical prowess to cultivated wisdom. So, what is the one limitation you are currently fighting in your own life? Is it the natural slowing of your energy, a skill that does not come easily to you, or a circumstance that simply cannot be changed right now? Instead of pouring your finite energy into resisting it, pause for a moment. What would happen if you simply accepted it as a fact of your current landscape, as real and unchangeable as the weather? In that acceptance, you are not admitting defeat. You are stopping the leak. You are reclaiming all that wasted energy and freeing it to be invested in what you can do, building a new form of strength within the honest confines of your reality. It is not what you know, but what you do with what you know. This final principle cuts to the very heart of the entire blueprint, the unity of philosophy and action. Stoicism was never meant to be a set of clever quotes for quiet contemplation. It is a philosophy of the field, a manual for the arena of daily life. Your mental fortitude is not measured by what you can recite in a moment of calm, but by what you instinctively do when the pressure is on. The ancient teacher Epictetus held a special scorn for those who treated philosophy as mere intellectual ornament. He said that if someone is able to prove to him that he is wrong in thought or deed, he will gladly change, for he seeks the truth by which no one was ever harmed. He is harmed who persists in his own self-deception and ignorance. He was challenging his students to prove their learning not with their words but with their lives. To know that anger is a brief madness is one thing. To feel the heat of insult rise in your chest and still choose a calm, reasoned response, that is Stoicism in action. Consider a manager who has publicly championed the principle of focusing only on what is within their control. Then, a major supplier suddenly goes out of business, jeopardizing a crucial project timeline. The entire team looks to them, waiting for a reaction. The true test arrives. Does this leader spend the meeting lamenting the unfairness of the situation, blaming the supplier, and worrying about external fallout? Or do they immediately pivot the team's focus to the controllable factors, assessing their remaining resources, exploring alternative partners, and recalibrating the plan with clear-eyed determination? Their actions in that stressful hour reveal more about their philosophical depth than 1,000 recited quotes ever could. Their decisions, big and small, become a living, breathing expression of their stated beliefs. So now, the most important question moves from the screen to you. Look back over the principles we have explored. From the inner citadel to the evening review, choose just one. Not the one that sounds most impressive, but the one you feel the most immediate resistance to applying. Perhaps it is the discipline of withholding judgment when you feel insulted, or the practice of voluntary discomfort for a single day. Your challenge is to make a concrete commitment. Within the next 48 hours, how will you actively live this principle? Will you pause at the gate of your mind before reacting to a critical email? Will you take that cold shower? Will you perform your evening review? Do not just think about it. Decide on the specific action, the specific moment. This is where knowledge sheds its skin and becomes character. This is where you stop learning about the path and finally begin to walk it. The secret to unshakable joy is not getting what you want, but wanting what you have. This is the profound shift at the heart of the 29th principle, the cultivation of joy from within. The Stoics called this state eudaimonia, a deep flourishing of the human spirit that arises as a natural byproduct of living in accordance with virtue. It has nothing to do with the fleeting highs of pleasure or the temporary relief of a wish fulfilled. This joy is built into the very structure of a life well lived, making it a contentment that no external event can grant or take away. Seneca drew a bright line between this authentic joy and mere sensory indulgence, writing that true joy is a serious matter. He believed that the happy man is content with his present lot, no matter what it is, and is reconciled to his circumstances. This is not a passive resignation, but an active embrace of your present reality as the fertile ground for your virtuous action. Consider the philosopher Boethius, who wrote his masterpiece, The Consolation of Philosophy, while unjustly imprisoned and awaiting a brutal execution. Stripped of his wealth, his freedom, and his status, he found a profound and serene joy by turning inward. He dialogued with the figure of Lady Philosophy, reinforcing his understanding that genuine happiness is found not in the wheel of fortune's gifts, but in the unwavering quality of his own soul. His external world was a dungeon, but his inner world remained a palace of reason and peace. His joy was not dependent on his circumstances because its source was untouchable, residing in the excellence of his own character. Now take a quiet moment to look at your own life. List 3 sources of genuine joy for you that do not depend on money, status, or the approval of others. Perhaps it is the quiet satisfaction of completing a difficult task with integrity, the warmth of a conversation where you listen deeply, or the simple feeling of a clear conscience at the end of the day. These are the quiet, steady flames of eudaimonia, and they are available to you regardless of what fortune brings tomorrow. Each of these principles interlocks, forming a single, resilient architecture for the mind. Your inner citadel is fortified by the discipline of assent, its walls made steady by the dichotomy of control. Your actions are guided by virtue, made resilient by Amor, Fati, and given perspective by the view from above. This is not a collection of interesting ideas, but a unified operating system for leadership. It transforms philosophy from a passive study into an active training regimen, a daily practice of sculpting your character with the same dedication an athlete trains their body. This blueprint is your inheritance, passed down not through bloodline but through choice. It is accessible to anyone willing to do the work, empowering you to lead with calm authority in your workplace, with patient wisdom in your home, and with purposeful service in your community. Your sphere of influence, no matter its size, becomes your arena to practice this timeless art. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered the ultimate reward for this inner work when he stated, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This is the freedom that awaits, a liberation from the tyranny of external events and the chaos of unchecked emotions. It is the freedom to lead your life from a place of unshakable principle. As we conclude, look back over this hidden blueprint. Which single practice calls to you most strongly right now? Is it building the pause of cognitive detachment, or perhaps the deliberate cultivation of gratitude through negative visualization? Your journey begins not with all 29 principles, but with one. Choose one and commit to weaving it into the fabric of your next week. If you found value in exploring this path to mental fortitude, consider subscribing for more guides on applying ancient wisdom to the challenges of modern life. And we would be honored to hear from you in the comments below. Share the one Stoic principle you plan to integrate first, and let us build a community of practice, learning and growing together in the pursuit of a life well led.